It was Friday night, wasn't it? It was a Friday night, April 24th, Friday night. Jessica was working. Lawrence was up front, he was tending bar. We kept listening to the weather because we kept hearing all of these storms. Fairview, there was a tornado sighting at Fairview, which is west of town. There was a tornado sighting over north of Russell. There was one sighted over by Paradise. And Jessica, our waitress, and I went out back. And we were looking, you know, because we kept hearing all of this hail and all of these tornadoes and all of this storm. We went out back and looked up at the sky. And the sky was literally just, the whole sky was rotating at that time. We came back inside. We all tried to move our vehicles because we heard it was coming, but we didn't know it was anything like what was going to be. Started raining. Started hailing. I went back to the kitchen. I started cooking for everybody. And it hailed, and it hailed, and it hailed. And we never thought it would ever stop hailing. There was a point in time where you literally could not hear anything inside this building.
Nothing's forever. Even the flying pig is gone with the wind, right? So I have to quit thinking in terms of permanence and just do it. Yeah. I think I'm a result of the hailstorm. Maybe he wouldn't have let him go if they wouldn't got beat up. I don't know. I go clear back to basic painting. Warm colors pop out, cool colors recede. So usually the background's done with cool pans, cool colors like blues. And if I use a yellow, I'll color it in with blue.
LID, that's Little Film Festival. And next up here we have the Cougar football, the youth football. Central Kansas Youth Football League, Cougar football. These are 4th, 5th, 6th grade Lucas and Sylvan players. 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. They also are the ones that will have the walking taco over there in the mini park. So
when the baseball-sized hail started hitting, I had to cover my ears up because it was so loud in this area here. Well, I think he did too because it was just so. We went like this because it was just so loud. And the last time I was down here, I didn't have water, so now I have my water, so I can drink my water and shut the door.
So I believe a little small tornado went through there because it went out, in, and out again. And I went into my house and I had a freezer door, stand-up freezer door, and that was open. So, you know, I think the suction of the wind going through the house when the windows were broken. Do you understand what I mean?
Well, I have heard of a lot of things that I won't talk about because I can't prove any of it. But and it's not been directly affecting me. But you know, a lot of times when you have hail as long and as big and as devastating as this was, a lot of windows are broke. Also, there's a lot of wind, and with that wind, you know, yes, there might have been a vacuum created. Glass shards are blown inward from the windows into the homes. Quite possibly a refrigerator door might have been blown open and they wanted to check to see if there was glass shards in there, because certain policies and certain types of policies offer food protection. In other words, recovering food that might have been damaged by the refrigerators being off for a period of time, or maybe glass shards in the food, certain policies. So in a situation like that, that's not unusual if that's what occurred. But again, I can't speak on any of that because it was not directly affecting me.
Okay, I want to take this off so you can see it better, take a better picture.
Okay.
After the hailstorm, this AC was completely dinged up, and you know, after we found out how much money we're gonna get and from the insurance company and how much AC unit would cost, and we decided maybe we should put this money on a different project, and I can fix this up and see how long we'll run. So I took a chair one day and I sat down, and with a pocket knife I slowly, you know, got all these straightened out, and man, it took a few hours. And then I took a comb. There's a special comb that they use in the automotive, and you just put it and drag it all along, and it kind of gets it back the way it was. And then I decided to just leave this one for posterity, you know, for, you know, have a little story about it. So this is our AC.
Okay, I'm coming.
You didn't have that chair down
On the day of the storm, we waited around, and then the alarms went off. Right, Wendell?
We never had that chair down there.
Are you sure?
Yes, we have the other lawn chairs.
Oh, okay. I thought this. Well, you're sure? Because we need 3 chairs. So then we put on our jackets, and Pilar, our friend, was with us, and Wendell opened up the storm cellar. Right?
As you can see, I designated this for tornadoes, but we didn't have a tornado. We ended up doing this.
We ended up with a hail tail.
And what's the problem is, when you have a hailstorm with a steel door, it gets rather noisy. That was for about 37 minutes from what we timed when we were down in there.
So the 3 of us sat around with our fingers in our ears. And the reason he brought the motorcycle helmet is a serious hailstorm. A serious situation was developing. So, welcome to our real storm cellar. We need 3
We made
chairs.
it. There's enough people to get in here.
We need the other chair, remember? Because Pilar was sitting over here.
Oh, okay, but don't
I was right.
Okay. Now there's plenty of room. I got food, I got water,
Cheers.
I got lights in here.
Radio.
We got sleeping bags. We
And
got
2
chairs.
cans of pork and beans. You know,
Yeah, we got 2 cans left of pork and beans.
so if it's a real disaster, we have to eat this very slowly.
It's really pretty amazing. It's a pretty amazing mix of bizarreness, which doesn't happen anywhere else. And it might happen in different forms in other places, or even just another small town that doesn't have an art environment in this region has a much different flavor, its own sort of problems, and they look to Lucas for, you know, I don't know what they have. They've got something, but they've got it together. So that external perception regionally of Lucas having it together is kind of fun to help promote and keep going. But farther afield, it's a good reminder that there's some sort of community stick-to-itiveness that Lucas has that other towns don't. Or other towns might have parts of it, and other parts might work better, but it's a really special magic that happens here.
They were a lot of help. People came out and helped people.
What was your experience, Jerry?
I was in my neighbor's basement. They were so kind to let me stay with them. And I had no idea it was devastating till it was over with. They wouldn't even let me walk home. They was afraid I'd fall down on the icy yard, so they drove me home. But it was bad. It was bad.
Mm-hmm.
It was drifted in my, when I got home, it was drifted in my back door. I couldn't open it. Like some snowstorm or something.
How high do you think it was?
2 feet, maybe 3 in places.
It probably drifted in that place. On the highway, I know it's good 8 inches because I drove through it out here by Kate.
Yeah.
It was bad.
And I had roof damage, but I did not lose any window panes. I think my overhang on the house protected that.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a lot of damage.
It was like a train coming through, maybe, or like a like if you're sitting right next to an airport or something. It wasn't as loud as a jet airplane, but it had that same kind of like a whistle sound almost to it at that point, and it just felt like fireworks were going off a lot too. Like it sounded like fireworks everywhere, and like that's the only way I could describe it. Fireworks and a lot of wind.
What I saw was only about this big around. I'd say golf ball size. They said some of them was bigger than that. But then I wasn't out. But when I walked across, the hail came up over my shoes, and he had a hold of my arm so I could walk across there. But it was deep. I never saw such hail.
My Aunt Vivian.
Aunt Vivian.
Yes, she's
yes.
my aunt. She's my aunt. She said she'd never seen anything like this before. No weather like this before ever. She's 90 years old, and she's lived here all her life. So, I mean, they've had snowstorms and what have you, she said, but I've never seen a storm cause so much damage ever. And she's 90, so.
I've always known Kansas as Tornado Alley, but I've never seen anything like this, and it was kind of just like a big reality shock that this just happened and this is going to happen and it's still happening. Like it
could still happen again.
Yeah, it made me realize, okay, I've just been lucky before now. Even if it's not this bad, I'm living in this area where I could face this during tornado season a lot.
Yeah, and it was nice to see how the community came together, so I think it's nice that we all stick together in times of need.
And especially the Sylvan people came over and helped, because they obviously weren't hurt as bad as our town was, and there were still people from the Sylvan community that came and helped out here, because we're all one big family, the community surrounding us.
Yeah,
so.
Sometimes I feel like our community is like spread apart, but this kind of united everyone.
This is what got broke.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The hail managed to smack the hell out of that. And then you come on up here and look down this way to give. That's pretty much the picture of the video that I shot. Yeah, and I was basically just up in here shooting down. I had the Wi-Fi here and fire station, so I was trying to get a line on any of the more warnings from the National Weather Service. They got a feed, so that's why I got stuck here with the Wi-Fi. This is a good spot for me to get the weather update. And it started hailing so hard that I would have probably gotten injured.
Yeah, I really don't know, but I've been told that if you have a tornado warning, and the hail comes, it's a good chance that it's not just a watch. That just growing up in Kansas, we hear warnings a lot and we hear sirens a lot. And I just learned along the way, I don't know where it came from, that when a hail comes, there's a good chance it's followed by a tornado. And I don't know what makes it. I know that a tornado is made when the hot wind and the cold wind combines, and then they start rotating, but so I'm not sure.
She has another person in the house.
Well,
287 according to the last census.
I thought it was 400.
Right around 300.
It's a big town for 300 people.
And if you were to describe the community to somebody from the outside, what is Lucas? How would you contain Lucas in an idea or a statement?
The Garden of Eden and the Grassroots Art Center and the toilet bowl.
Yeah, really, when you think it through, that probably, if it wasn't for the Garden of Eden, this place may or may not be a town, actually, you know, or at least the population wouldn't be what it is right now. So that's kind of interesting. But the thing that we discovered after we got here was that Great Plains has a big factory on the east side of town, and that the co-op has just put in new elevators, and that they own their own electric company, which is pretty cool. So that's another plus. There's a lot of really cool little things. I mean, for a town of 300, and we have like, what, 4 full-time people working for the city, that's pretty interesting.
And then I drove up, and when I got to, I turned off 232 onto K18, but when I got to the turnoff onto First Street, the road was about 6 inches thick with ice, just packed ice. I lived in Minnesota for 10 years. I've driven on ice, but I've never driven on 6 inches of solid ice. And you know the sound your car makes when you go down a driveway that it hits the undercarriage of your car? That's the sound the car made the whole time. I'm driving down First Street to come here to this house. And it just sounded like my car was being chewed up. I'm so glad that they told me not to come, because everybody I know who had a car that was outside lost their windshield.
Well, as a business owner, yeah, my business did increase. Thank goodness. So I made a little money and lost a little money. No, there was a ton of people, and contracts were getting done every day, you know. And it was good for business. That part of it was good for the community. But believe me, if you have this much devastation, you would rather not have the devastation and not have the people move to town. With all of our arts in town, it did give us a tremendous amount of exposure. People got here, and then they did see the Garden of Eden, and they did see the Grassroots Art Center, and a lot of people love our little community. It is a great place. But the devastation that happened with the hailstorm was good and bad. One of the best things that happened out of the hailstorm was the next morning. You know, the freshman class at the high school got together, and there were limbs down all over every yard in town. I mean, it was a mess. And these kids, with the sponsor, they came out of school and they went and cleaned and helped people. And neighbors helped each other. Everybody helped each other. That's the great part of a small community coming together. And the community did a great job. It's just too bad we had to deal with shysters like the ones that showed up that didn't finish their jobs and didn't treat trusting people correctly. That's the bad part.
I think the positive thing was how people pulled together, and how people through tragedy came and helped other people. And it wasn't a thing I want to see happen again, to make people treat people nicely. but I think it did bring neighbors to neighbor, and you know, if somebody needed food or if somebody needed help, or people seemed to pull together pretty well. Of course, small towns are that way.